In a village on the Greek island of Ikaria, researchers from the University of Athens made an unusual observation. 1 in 3 residents lives past the age of 90. Not in a hospital, not in assisted care. At home, cooking, tending gardens, arguing about politics over dinner. They called Ikaria the island where people forget to die. But the researchers wanted to know something more specific. They didn't want to know what these people avoided. They wanted to know what they did. What came back was not a supplement protocol. It was not a fitness routine. It was 5 habits. Ordinary, daily, almost invisible habits that science has now, for the first time, been able to measure with precision. Here is what most people in the Western world believe about aging. They believe the body declines on a fixed schedule, that inflammation, cognitive fog, and cardiovascular disease are simply what happens, the inevitable price of getting older. This belief is wrong. According to data from the World Health Organization, adults in the United States spend, on average, the last 12 years of their lives in poor health. 12 years. In contrast, adults in Sardinia, Crete, and the southern coast of Spain show a pattern that is statistically different from anything researchers expected. Not just longer lives, longer healthy lives. The gap is not genetic. A 2004 study published in the New England Journal of Medicine following Greek immigrants to Australia over 2 generations found that as Mediterranean families adopted Western habits, their longevity advantage disappeared within 1 generation. The body did not change, the habits did. Your body runs on a system of repair. Think of it like a maintenance crew working inside a building. Every day, your cells accumulate damage from stress, from food, from the simple act of breathing and metabolizing energy. The maintenance crew's job is to find that damage and fix it. In a young body, the crew is fast. In an older body, 2 things happen. The crew gets slower, and the damage accumulates faster. This process has a name. Researchers call it inflammaging, chronic, low-grade inflammation that builds silently over decades. A landmark review published in the journal Nature Reviews Immunology in 2014 identified inflammaging as the root driver of nearly every major age-related disease: cardiovascular disease, type 2 diabetes, Alzheimer's disease, and certain cancers. What the Mediterranean lifestyle does at a biological level is slow that accumulation of damage. Not dramatically, not overnight, but consistently across decades. The 5 habits that follow are the mechanisms behind that slowdown. The first habit is eating fat, the right kind. For decades, dietary fat was treated as the enemy of healthy aging. That position has been revised. A 2020 meta-analysis published in the journal Nutrients, reviewing data from over 840,000 participants, found that high consumption of olive oil, specifically extra virgin olive oil, was associated with a 27% reduction in cardiovascular mortality. The mechanism is a compound called oleocanthal. Oleocanthal is found in fresh extra virgin olive oil, and it acts on the same inflammatory pathway as ibuprofen. Not identically, but similarly. In Crete, daily olive oil consumption averages between 4 and 6 tablespoons. Not drizzled, used as the primary cooking fat, used as a finishing oil, used on bread. The body receives a steady, low-level anti-inflammatory signal, not from a pill, but from the first meal of the day. The second habit is eating at a defined pace. In Japan, there is a concept called hara hachibu, eating until you are 80% full. In Mediterranean cultures, the equivalent is less a rule than a rhythm. Meals are slow. They are social. The stomach has time to signal the brain before the plate is empty. This matters biochemically. Research from the University of Athens, published in 2015, found that slower eating rates are directly associated with lower post-meal insulin spikes, one of the primary drivers of metabolic aging. The Greek lunch is not short. It is rarely eaten alone. The fork is put down between bites. The conversation continues. The body registers fullness before the damage of overconsumption begins. The third habit is sleeping with intention. The afternoon rest is almost universally dismissed in the modern West as a luxury, or as laziness. The biology disagrees. A 2007 study from Harvard School of Public Health, tracking 23,681 Greek adults over 6 years, found that those who took regular midday naps had a 37% lower rate of coronary mortality than those who did not. The mechanism involves cortisol. Cortisol, your primary stress hormone, follows a natural arc through the day, peaking in the morning and dropping by early afternoon. The nap, timed to that natural drop, prevents the cortisol rebound that accumulates over years of pushing through the afternoon without rest. In Greek villages, the afternoon pause is not negotiable. Shops close. Phones are set down. The body gets what it is asking for. The fourth habit is moving without exercising. Mediterranean seniors do not, as a rule, have gym memberships. They walk to the market. They climb stairs. They tend land. They stand during conversations. Researchers from the Karolinska Institute in Stockholm coined a term for this: non-exercise activity thermogenesis. A 2016 study published in the American Journal of Preventive Medicine found that sitting for fewer than 3 hours a day was associated with a 2-year increase in life expectancy, independent of formal exercise habits. That word independent matters. Walking an extra 20 minutes a day, taking stairs, standing while on a phone call. These are not compensations for skipping the gym. They are a separate, additive benefit with their own distinct biological effect. The fifth habit is aging inside a community. The research on social connection and longevity is now substantial enough that it can no longer be treated as soft science. A 2015 meta-analysis published in the journal Perspectives on Psychological Science, reviewing 148 studies and over 300,000 participants, found that strong social relationships reduced the risk of premature death by 50%. The biological pathway runs through two systems. First, social connection reduces the production of inflammatory cytokines, the same molecules at the core of inflammaging. Second, it modulates the body's central stress response system, keeping cortisol lower over long periods. In Sardinian villages, men gathered daily, not for a reason, simply to sit together. The social fabric is not an add-on to the healthy lifestyle. In the data, it is one of its most powerful components. Now, a critical distinction that most people miss. These 5 habits are not independent variables. They do not work as well alone as they do in combination. Adding olive oil to a diet eaten fast, alone, and in front of a screen is not the Mediterranean lifestyle. It is an ingredient borrowed from a system without understanding the system. Here is what the science actually supports, translated into specific actions. Replace your cooking oil with extra virgin olive oil, not olive oil blend, not light olive oil. Extra virgin, cold-pressed, used at 4 tablespoons minimum per day across meals. Eat your largest meal in the middle of the day. If your schedule allows even partial movement toward this, your insulin response will begin to shift within weeks, according to research from the Salk Institute published in 2019. If you do not nap, sit quietly for 20 minutes after midday. No screen, no input. Allow the cortisol arc its natural descent. Walk after meals. A 10-minute walk after eating, according to a 2022 study in sports medicine, reduced post-meal blood sugar spikes by 30% compared to sitting. And finally, identify one regular social gathering you will not cancel. Not when you feel like it. Weekly. Without exception. The consistency matters more than the duration. There is something worth sitting with here. Every one of these habits is old. None of them were designed by a research institution. They were passed down because communities noticed, over generations, that people who lived this way tended to live well and long. Science has now given us the mechanisms behind what grandmothers already knew. What Mediterranean cultures understood, and what the research confirms, is that health is not an achievement. It is a way of being inside each ordinary day. Next week, we look at one specific finding from the Ikaria study, how the quality of sleep in your 60s predicts cognitive function a decade later, and what researchers found the Ikarians do differently every night that most of the Western world stopped doing 50 years ago. The answer is simpler than you expect. This video is for educational purposes only. Always consult your healthcare provider.